Hi friends, Anuja here. I am a social work professional. I have completed my masters in social work, public health management and business administration. I have prepared this video with my 30 years of working experience in this field. Here we will be covering syllabus of Bachelor in Social Work, Masters in Social Work, which I feel it will be beneficial for the students, those who are currently pursuing social work and also the social work professionals. So let's get started with the video. Hi friends, today's topic is social work methods. So as you know, in our last session, we had a discussion on social work methods. Then we have discussed on social casework. So as you know, casework we are dealing casework under the primary work method, and it is one of the method of social work methods. So primary work and secondary work. So today we will discuss on casework, which is coming under primary work method. Primary work method means here we are dealing directly with the clients, right? So this slide you have already seen. Yeah. Now it's casework. In casework, basically we are trying to mobilize the capacities in the individual and the resources in the community. For what? For a appropriate solution, and where the client will be could able to adjust himself or herself in a better manner in the society where he is staying, right? These are two different authors defined casework, an art of bringing about better adjustment. So every time the moral of the casework is, here we are trying the client to cope his or with his or her environment where they are staying, right? So kind of coping mechanism for a better adjustment we are trying. Then let's discuss little about the nature of social work. Casework is not a prototype solution. What here I wanted to emphasize is, there is not a single solution for every problem, because individuals are different. We are dealing with different individuals with different kind of problems. So there is no such prototype solution to every problem. In casework, we are dealing with a professional relationship to deal the case. Here, the relationship between the casework, caseworker and the client is basically a professional kind of thing. In casework, we are dealing with individuals, what is their need, what is their ecosystem, or how they will be better be adjusted in their particular society or community. Casework basically aims to understand and solve the psychosocial problems of the individual. When you are saying a client, as I have already mentioned, a client means a problem with a person with a problem. So here we are trying to understand the dynamics of that particular problem or issue the individual is facing. And it aims to strengthen the professional efficiency of the individual so that he could able to handle his problem in a better way. So here we are trying to develop the efficiency of the individuals. Then what are the problems in social functioning? With that, here we are addressing, and we are trying to prevent those problems, and we in such a manner so that a person's personal skill and social will be built upon to cope with the mechanisms. So in casework, it aims to solve the psychosocial problem of an individual to cope with his or her environment. Then what are the basic characteristics a casework is having? It is a progressive process. Yes, it is a continuous process in, and it requires a particular knowledge and skill to connect oneself with the client. As we have already discussed, it emphasizes the capacity of the individual. It ensures the personality development because until and unless we are addressing the efficiency or the personality or the inner mechanism of a person, then it is not very easy to address the problem and to change the person, to change the skill of a person to deal with the problem. Friends, as we have already discussed, there are many aspects of a casework. Basically, it is having a certain goal on the basis of the problem. It follows certain core principles and it follows a process. So goal, as you know, we are dealing with a client. So it enhances the individual's social functioning or capacity for self-sufficiency. What are the key core principles? That is individual care, non-judgmental attitude, to improve the self-determination of a client, or, or confidentiality. These are basically the core principles we are dealing in casework. The processes there, that processes is having 5 phases. What are those? That is study the persons, the problem, assess the person's efficiency so that the person could able to cope with the ecosystem. Then treatment means intervention on the basis of the person's personality and the dynamics of the problem. We have to intervene or prepare a strategy, then evaluation, then termination, which is most important. Since we are telling it is a continuous process, but still it has to be follow it has to follow a termination point, or it has to attain a termination point where the client will be having a satisfactory note. As you might be knowing, every casework or whatever the intervention we are doing, that the base of that particular casework is the knowledge in terms of assessing a problem. If we will fail to assess a problem, then our intervention will not be in a desired way. So the most important, the two things, that is the depth or dynamics of the problem and the efficiency or the personal skills of a client. So in matching these two most important things, we have to decide what will be our intervention. As you know, when you are dealing with the individual and with a particular community with certain set of norms, we must be having some assumptions, which must be having some theoretical formulations, and we have to follow, but the caseworker has to follow certain tools and techniques with certain principles to attain a particular solution. So the four things that is most important, that, that is philosophical assumptions, principles, theoretical formulation, tools and techniques of a particular practice. In my last session, my followers have requested me to cite a particular example. Whatever I am saying, that is on that is on the basis of my experience. So here I would like to cite some examples of a casework which I have already dealt in a particular program. Suppose a Swasthya Samparka program. When we are saying a Swasthya Samparka program, then in that under that program we are trying to interface facility with the community. It means the gaps or the barriers, those who are there, or the challenges, those who are not allowing the community to assess a better, to assess a better solution or better treatment, their Swasthya Samparka program comes in. So in under Swasthya Samparka program, there are many Gaon Kalyana Samitis that we have to strengthen so that community will be having their own voice, and they will come up with their own strategies to address their issues. So when under this program, we are dealing with various GKS Gaon Kalyana Samitis. Each Gaon Kalyana Samitis, the convener is the Anganwadi worker. So the Anganwadi workers, they have been placed in their in different GKs, Gaon Kalyana Samitis. In some of the GKs, this program or their um, what their response is very high. So they are self motivated. In some of the Gaon Kalyana Samitis, it is not happening. It is totally deformed. So in that case, we have to deal Anganwadi workers who is a client, or who is a client or the community, the person or the mother who is suffering is a client. So in that case, we have to deal every Anganwadi workers with their own dynamics. In some Anganwadi workers, in some cases, the Anganwadi workers are not getting the support of the Panchayati Raj representatives. In that case, he couldn't able to spend the budget. He couldn't able to organize the meeting. Whereas in some Gaon Kalyana Samitis, the Anganwadi workers are getting lots of responses from the community. The community is helping them to organize that kind of meeting. They are self-motivated. They are coming forward. So in that case, we are here. We are having two categories of problem individuals, or two categories of problems. In one case, we are getting huge response of the community. In one case, we are not getting that much of support from the community. So what we have to do here? We have to think Anganwadi worker as a client. So in one-to-one discussion, we will address what is the problem exactly the worker is facing, or when they are approaching that we are not able to organize a meeting, we are not getting community support. So in that case, we have to sit with the Anganwadi workers to analyze what are the challenges she is facing, what are his family backgrounds, what is her educational qualification, what is his rapport with the rest of the community stakeholders. So on the basis of that, I have already mentioned there is no prototype solution for everyone. So sorry. So when we will analyze or will sit with the Anganwadi workers, she might have started saying, she will be saying what is our problem. So that way our approaches will be different. So this is a bright example of casework where we have to sit individually with the Anganwadi workers. Then accordingly we will derive the solution, where to pitch in, where to start, so that the desired result will be attained. As we are saying, there are already some assumptions we will be getting. What is that? Human beings are interdependent. As you know, human beings are social beings. So there is an interdependency between them. The existence of common needs does not negate the uniqueness of the individual. The common needs also different on the basis of individuals, because they are in a particular environment. So we cannot separate them or take out them and treat in a aloof treat in aloof to attain the result. So we have to the like the individual problems are also unique. Every individual has potential for growth and achievement, like the personal skill, and traits are also different. So accordingly, they will be addressing the challenges. Society has an obligation for the realization of one's potential. Yes, agree. So these are the assumptions we must be having before getting into the casework process. Yeah, philosophical assumptions we've already discussed. Next, go to the theoretical formulations. Here, prepositions plays a vital role. It prepositions mean some theoretical statements, and that is in line with the established and accepted facts. So preposition 1, that is an individual behavior is conditioned by the environment and the life experiences. As you might be knowing, the two sisters of a family, if they will be nurtured or in a different society or different community, then their behaviors are also guided accordingly. Their growth, development, everything will be decided, everything will be guided, decided by that particular environment. Second preposition, the human growth and development. Second prepositions, again I want to say, for this human growth and development, certain basic needs to be met, because those are the basis upon which the growth and development will be decided. Emotional needs are real. Sometimes you said that person is very emotion, that person is having some emotional feelings, which is not real, but that is not true, because every individuals are having some emotional needs or feelings, those are real, and that should be considered while dealing with a person or an individual. That emotional feeling should not be judged and decided on the basis of intellectual reasoning. Sometimes intellectual reasonings won't support to establish or derive the emotional needs. Fourth, behavior is purposeful and directly proportional to the individual's needs. Every person will be behave, used to behave. Every person used to behave on the basis of their need. Suppose because the needs can only decide how the person will place themselves in the society, so that the need of the particular person will be met, right? People's behavior can be understood only in terms of one's own emotional and intellectual comprehensions. As you have seen, under the knowledge of social work, we have already discussed, there are some assumptions, theoretical interpretations, then principles. A casework, when we are dealing or doing a casework, then we should abide by certain principles. Those are individualization, purposeful expression of feelings, controlled emotional involvement, non-judgmental attitude, client's self-determination and acceptance. So these are 6 pointers one has to follow while dealing with a casework in terms of principles. Thank you. Thanks a lot, friends, for your patience hearing.